Yes, a very good evening, everyone. Sorry for the slight delay. So we were basically in the last session that we took up, we looked at what is the basic demand, and from today onwards, what we will be doing is we will be addressing a few questions from each and every aspect. That means the types of questions that are asked, all the types of questions that are asked. We will look at those questions and we will look at what is the basic requirement to address those questions, and then we will also discuss what is no what is to be written in those questions. Okay, so let us begin today's discussion. If you remember, in the last class we had talked about quotation based questions. Okay, we had talked about quotation based questions. Quotation based questions, and before we before we get into the discussion of some questions today, let me just repeat what did I say as the basic demands that you need to fulfill while answering a quotation based question. And what you're supposed to do is, first of all, you are supposed to write the meaning of the question, that is the meaning of the quotation. The meaning of the quotation that is there, it is something which is a part of, it is a part of the no the introduction that you write. You have to explain what does the quote mean. Secondly, you have to address different dimensions of the quote. You have to address the different dimensions of the quote. If you remember, I did say that uh, the statement may be given by any individual. So a statement may be given by someone who is a historical personality and has given that statement with a very specific context. But what we are supposed to do is we are supposed to interpret it not only in the context in which it was given. Like, if there is a statement that is given by Socrates, so his statement is more a philosophical, and he's a historical personality, so there is a context. But when we write about it, we look at the different dimensions, not just one dimension, but multiple dimensions of that very quote. Okay. Then we also do what? We also specifically look at the ethical and the administrative dimension of it. The ethical and the administrative dimension of it. We look at it from its contemporary relevance. What is the contemporary relevance of it? We look at it there also. We also add examples. Examples relevant to the quote. The examples that are relevant to the quote. Okay, so this is basically how we address a quotation based question. Clear? So what we are going to do today is we are going to look at least two questions. I'm going to take up at least two questions related to quotations that have been asked in 2025 itself. We are going to see that, and how we can address it. We are going to discuss it, and then the remaining quotations that has been asked in the last 2-3 years would be your homework. Okay, so it would be like whatever we discuss today, whatever we are discussing today, that is the basis of how you no that is the basis of how you will no how will you will address the quotations that are there, and then you will look at all the other questions which have been asked quotations. That will be what? That will be like a practice that you do at your home. And then in the next class when we meet, that means in the next session that we meet, whatever problems you are facing related to writing quotation based, you can ask me those questions. We will address those questions in that very class itself or in that very session itself. Okay. So this is basically what my plan is. That is what I will do for every type of question that is asked, whether it is related to applied ethics. So I will take one session where I will deal with no what are the basic demands to address questions related to applied ethics. Second session would be related to the questions, and I will discuss at least 2 or 3 questions on it. Then you will have a homework, and all the applied ethics questions you will try and answer them. And when we meet for the third session, we will take up no any no any problems that you are facing related to it, and if necessary I will take a fourth session on it. So this is where the 12 10 to 11 12 sessions would be held for all types of section A type of questions that are basically taken up. Okay, so without any delay, let us do what? Let us look at a question which was asked. Let's look at a quotation which has been asked in the 2025 examination itself. And the quotation is: the strength of the society the strength of the society is not in laws, is not in laws, but in morality of its people. In morality of its people. In morality of its people. Okay. Okay. Explain. Explain the statement. Okay. This is basically the quote that has been asked. Now, first of all, what exactly is our way? What structure have we derived that this is the structure that we should be following? And what we have derived is, first of all, we are supposed to do what? First, what we need to do is we need to write down what exactly is the meaning of this particular quote. Okay. And this quote has been given by Swami Vivekananda. Okay. It's a quote given by Swami Vivekananda. Swami Vivekananda. Okay. And you can relate this to a particular part of your syllabus as well. If you look at if you look at your syllabus, you will find that there is a topic. In fact, there are two topics in the in the topic public service values and ethics in public administration. There are two topics that are mentioned. First is the role of laws, rules, regulation, and the role of conscience in as a source of ethical guidance. Okay, so this is the topic. You're supposed to use the knowledge that you have gained in this particular topic, whatever material you have read about in that topic, and you are supposed to utilize it here. Okay, and therefore when you start the introduction, what is the introduction? Now remember, as this is something that I had talked about in the last class also, I did mention this in the last class also, that when it comes to no when it comes to your GS paper 4, GS paper 4 is no it is comparatively subjective. Okay, so there can always be, there can always be some other way that you can approach the answer. What I am discussing is my way. I consider this to be something which can be very good way to for you also to approach this particular answer. Okay, so remember that this is subjective. So because it is subjective, that is the reason why we are basically trying to discuss it. You can make some improvements, some changes if you want that. No, if you feel that there can be some improvements made, you can do that. Okay. For me, the introduction would be related to the meaning part of it. Okay. So what is the meaning here? What does this tell us? The meaning of this particular statement is that this statement is trying to emphasize on the idea. It is trying to emphasize on this very idea that when it comes to no when it comes to a society, laws that are made by an external institution, they might do what? They might guide external behavior of how people behave, how people react. That is basically what laws guide. But there is a problem related to laws. What is it? Laws are only and only capable of upholding the moral minimum, not the moral maximum. Okay? Only and only moral minimum, not the moral maximum. Clear? So that is basically what you're supposed to write in the introduction, because it is being said that what is important in a society, what is the most important aspect of a society? The important aspect of the society is not, it is not the laws that are being made, but the morality. No, the morality of the people. That is not the artificial, no artificial factors or external factors, but more importantly, the internal factors that are there. Internal factors are more important. Okay, so what you are supposed to do, you are supposed to basically write about here the fact that this statement that is given by Swami Vivekananda, what does it emphasize on? And the statement emphasizes on the fact that laws are externally imposed. Externally imposed mechanisms which regulate human behavior. These are externally imposed, no, externally imposed mechanisms which regulate human behavior. It is not something which is internal. On the other hand, morality is internal and reflects what standards an individual has internalized has internalized as right standards, right standards of internalized as right standards of behavior. Okay, now what does this mean? Laws, if I just go ahead and explain it a bit, laws may be no, there is very much a possibility that because laws are external, so an individual does not follow the law when no one is looking. So they know, every one of us know that we are guilty of violating a law only if it is proved. So only when someone is looking, that is the only time when I follow the law, or when someone is likely to follow the law. But when it comes to morality, that is not the case for morality. For morality, it is something that we have internalized. It is something that we believe in. And therefore, what is going to happen is that I am going to follow the standards of morality even when no one is looking. Why? Because I believe in it. I have internalized it as the right standard. है ना? We have internalized it as the right standard. Okay. So this is your introduction to this particular question. Now, let us come to the body part of our answer. So what is the body part of our answer? Now, in the body part of our answer, we are going to emphasize on the importance of law in ensuring, in ensuring, or you can say, what is the importance of law for ensuring that the administration, the people that are there, they follow a moral standard. We are also going to emphasize on the importance of morality and how morality does that, and we are also going to write criticisms of it. Okay, so what we are going to talk about in the body part, it would be something like this. I would give you a brief structure so that you have a clear understanding of it. You can write about how morality is the basis on which an individual's actions are based. Okay, so morality becomes what? Morality is the basis which guides human actions. Okay, you will write about this. You will write about this. Just a moment. See, there is a question that has been asked. Mm, I don't know your name because it's unknown something. And you have asked me a question related to personal morality, social morality, and constitutional morality. That is fine. But you have to have patience. Let me first complete the answer. And then I will discuss what your question is. Okay. So please don't spam that question. Okay. I will look at it. Don't worry. Okay. Then you will also write about what? You will also write about the problems related to the law. So what are the problems? Problems of law ensuring right conduct. What are the problems? We have identified some problems. We have seen some problems like laws ensure only the moral minimum. It ensures only the moral minimum, है ना? हम ये बात जानते हैं that लॉज सिर्फ हमें ये बताता है कि हमें क्या नहीं करना चाहिए. यानी इफ वी गो बिलो व्हाट द लॉ सेज, it becomes a punishable offense, but it is the no, it's only a minimum standard of morality that the law enforces. Laws cannot enforce maximum standards of morality. Okay. Secondly, laws sometimes laws itself can be immoral. laws itself can be immoral. Okay. Now, when I say laws can be moral, what does immoral? What does that mean? If you look at it from some examples point of view, you will find that there has been a law of apartheid in South Africa which legalized racial discrimination. Something very similar was the case with slavery as well. Slavery as well. In America, slavery and owning slaves was a legal concept. Clear? So, what is the problem? Sometimes laws in itself can be immoral. Thirdly, there can be absence of law. Absence of law. So, on some moral issues, there is a possibility that laws are itself not there. So, in those issues, how could laws guide morality or right conduct? And one more point, laws can always be amended, even retrospectively. Even retrospectively, laws can be amended. So, it can be amended from a previous date as well. So, in this case, laws, there are certain limitations that are there related to laws. Okay. Now, when you are addressing this, you will have to do what? You also have to emphasize on the concept of morality and how morality is important in a society. So you will have to write how, when it comes to morality, morality is more of a, no, morality is more of an internalized phenomena. Internalized phenomena. So you don't need any artificial enforcement mechanism for morality. You don't need any artificial enforcement mechanism. If you consider something to be wrong, you consider that that's not the right conduct, you will not follow it. Secondly, you can also write about the inbuilt mechanism to enforce morality. Inbuilt mechanism to enforce morality. What is the inbuilt mechanism to enforce morality? It is our conscience. It is what? It is our conscience. Conscience is, no, it is always there. It is always making a judgment for us, which is not the case with respect to law. Sometimes I may not be aware of a law. I may not be aware of a law. Okay. See, when we talk about a society and how the society functions, we look at a society, judge a society, not on the basis of the laws that are there, but on the basis of the values that that society follows. And you will find that when it comes to some Western countries, some developed countries, you will find that there are roadside shops which do not have anyone who is there manning the shop. So you are supposed to do what? You are supposed to go to that shop. If you are buying a particular product, it is considered that you will pay voluntarily for it. There is no one there to force you to pay. You are paying voluntarily for it. This is basically what, no, this is basically what we remember when we talk about a society. So the society is known for its moral values. The society is not known for the laws that the legislature has enacted. Okay. So you will write about the society and the moral values that the society has. Okay, so this is the body part where you criticize the law and you write the morality part. And what will be the conclusion? What do you think? How will you frame a conclusion here? Yes, anyone. If you are giving examples here, you can write about no you can write about our freedom movement, where certain principles guided the freedom fighters that were there. You can write about that. You can write about the social reformers and how their morality, their sense of morality was what resulted into social reforms. You can write about that. Those are examples that you can address here. And the conclusion would be a complementary relationship between laws and morality. Okay? What would be the conclusion here? The conclusion that you write would be a complementary relationship between them. Complementary relationship between laws and morality. A complementary relationship between them is what you can write as what as the conclusion here. Okay? देखो, what have we done? We have first of all meaning. We have seen the dimensions. Specifically, when we are writing about this, we can do what? We can give examples from the ethical and administrative dimensions part, some examples related to social reformers, etc. We can write. This is how we can address this particular question. Okay? Now, this is what you are now supposed to do. When you are writing a question, now you are supposed to, in a quotation that is there, you are supposed to follow this. Okay? There is one more question that I have taken up. We will also address that particular question. Okay? Before that, there is a question that has been asked. What is the difference between personal morality, social morality, and constitutional morality? It's a very simple discussion here. Personal morality is my individual beliefs of right and wrong. Okay. Constitutional morality is the constitutional prescriptions of what is right, what is considered right according to the constitution. Okay, according to the constitution, what is considered to be right, like the values prescribed by the constitution. Okay, and when you say social morality is nothing but the collective understanding of what is right and wrong, which is also how we define ethics. Okay, तो आपका क्वेश्चन जो था पर्सनल मोरालिटी, सोशल मोरालिटी एंड कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल मोरालिटी, आई हैव addressed. Okay, let us move on. Let us also look at one more question for today. Another quote has been there. The quote is related to no, it has been given by another individual. The greatest discovery, the greatest discovery of my generation, the greatest discovery of my generation is that human beings can is that human beings can alter his life, alter his life by altering his attitude. By altering his attitude. This statement is given by William James. Okay, this is another statement which was asked. sir, is this going to be a regular class? It's not a regular class. No, I'm just trying to address this whole प्रॉब्लम दैट इज देयर रिलेटेड टू एथिक्स आंसर राइटिंग, है ना. आप में से बहुत सारे ऐसे स्टूडेंट्स हैं हु हैव, नो, ऑफ कोर्स सम ऑफ यू आर दोज हु आर enrolled in our batch, some of you have previously enrolled in our batch, some of you are, no, they are, you are following us on YouTube, but you are not someone who has enrolled into our courses. For all of you, there is an ambiguity that is there related to answer writing, specifically when it comes to ethics. So there is a problem related to understanding of what is the demand of the question. Sometimes there is a problem related to understanding of how to frame your answers. You know the content, but you are unable to write answers. So that is the reason why we have come up with this initiative that specifically taking into consideration that there is a difference between the answer writing related to other topics in comparison to ethics. That is the reason why this series has been started specifically for those students who are appearing for UPSC mains. If you are preparing for UPSC mains, if you have studied, you have completed the ethics topic. So these are some problems that we have seen, we have highlighted, and accordingly we are trying to address that. Okay. Okay. Answers can be written in points also. Okay. It can be written in paragraphs also. But points, if possible, I always prefer that you write answers in the point part. Okay. Anyways, let's come back to this particular question. The greatest discovery of a generation is that human beings can alter his life by altering his attitude. This is a statement that has been given. Okay. Now, how do we approach this particular question? And we know introduction. So introduction is what? Introduction is primarily related to the meaning of it. What does this particular idea mean? Now, in this question, the introduction that you write is the correlation between attitude and an individual's behavior. Okay. So you have to write here how our attitudes influenced our behavior, and our behavior influences our achievements, our failures, and who we ultimately become. है ना? This is basically the way you write the introduction of this particular question. है ना? देखो, बात बहुत सीधी सी है. क्वेश्चन में एटीट्यूड और अचीवमेंट्स या एटीट्यूड एंड हु ह्यूमन बीइंग्स आर, दैट इज, उसके बीच में कोरिलेशन बनाने की कोशिश की गई, एंड दैट्स व्हाट वी आर आल्सो ट्राइंग टू डू. In this question, introduction is how attitudes influence our behavior. The attitudes that we hold, those attitudes determine whether we are going to favorably or unfavorably react to any attitude object. है ना? If the attitude object is suppose an individual, so our attitude determines how we react to him, whether we are favorably or we are unfavorably reacting to that particular attitude object. It is determined primarily. It's determined primarily by our attitudes. Okay, so how we behave, what is our behavior, is very much influenced by our attitudes. How we behave determines our achievements and our failures. है ना? You are civil service aspirants, so whether you succeed or whether you don't, it depends upon your behavior. So if you work hard, you do the right things, you are able to perform, you are very likely to succeed. So your success, all of ours, success or failures is dependent upon our behavior. And finally, our attitude determines who we ultimately become. Okay, this is the introduction. Now this is how you are going to write introduction to your, no, to this particular question. Okay, and then comes the body part. Now in the body part, you are going to write about what? In the body part of your answer, you are going to write about the importance of attitude, the importance of the kind of attitude that you hold. Importance of kind of attitude that we hold. Okay, importance of the kind of attitude that we hold. Like, what is my attitude towards, suppose, my emotions? Attitude towards emotions. I'm going to emphasize on attitude behavior link. I'm going to emphasize on attitude behavior link. I'm also going to talk about civil servants and their attitudes. So whether civil servants are committed to public service or not, it depends upon what? It depends upon the attitude. I'm going to emphasize on this point. And then what also, see, human beings can alter his life by altering their attitude. Meaning what? I also have to write about the fact that if originally someone does not hold the right attitude, there is always a possibility, there can always be a possibility that the individual changes that. Okay, so what can be done here? What can be done is you can emphasize on the changing or attitude change part, and how attitude change is necessary for any individual's growth, any individual's growth, है ना? जैसे अगर suppose we are talking about, suppose you as a civil service aspirant, if you are not very hard working, so you do not have a positive attitude towards hard work, but by changing this attitude, what can happen? Your life can change. Why? Because your achievements and your failures depends upon the attitude that you have. Okay, so what is your achievement? What are your failures? It depends upon the attitudes. So that can happen. There are people who have been no, there are achievers, no, overachievers who have been at the very initial phase of their life. They no, they were not, no, they were not as good as what they turned out to be. Their achievements initially, during the initial phase of their career or their life, they were not, no, what they later on were able to achieve. And what was the difference? The difference was that they were able to change their attitudes, and that is basically what resulted into that. Like, if we talk about individuals, like if we are talking about examples, you can give examples such as B.R. Ambedkar here. And B.R. Ambedkar's attitude towards education, है ना? B.R. Ambedkar's attitude towards constitutionalism, etc., etc., his attitude towards the society, all of this, resulted into what kind of individual he emerged to be, है ना? So despite the hardships that he faced, but he was still able to be the man that he is known as of today, because of his attitude, है ना? Because of the attitude that the individual holds. If you look at another example could be added in the form of crisis, the crisis that we have faced, COVID-19, and how there were number of civil servants, there were number of medical professionals who, because of their resilient attitude, when everything seemed to be in chaos, everything seemed to be in chaos. There was issues related to infrastructure, there was issues related to availability of no resources, and despite that, their resilient attitude resulted into them being capable of overcoming that particular situation, है ना? What is it? This is again an example of what attitudes that an individual holds, है ना? यही तो statement है, that even if you initially do not necessarily have the right attitudes, by a simple understanding of what right attitudes would result into your success, and by adopting those attitudes, you can alter your life, you can change your life. And the examples we have just talked about, whether it is B.R. Ambedkar, whether it is the examples of the crisis that we faced during the COVID-19 era. Okay, you can write that as the body part of your answer. And then comes the conclusion. The conclusion part can be the where you emphasize on civil servants having the right or positive attitude. Okay, civil servants having positive attitude, and how this contributes to good governance, how this can contribute to good governance. You can make this correlation and write it as a part of your conclusion. That can be your conclusion. Okay, the quotations, keywords, yes, you can it is not necessarily that you define it, but yes, describing what the basic meaning of this quotation is to be written in the introduction itself. ठीक है? तो देखो, ये discussion है हमारा related to the two questions that I talked about. I have not written the whole question, or I have not dictated it, because I assume that you are in a position after this discussion to write an answer. ठीक है, आप answers लिखो. Some of you who are enrolled in our courses can get it checked also. What I also want you to do is something that I informed you at the very beginning itself, that what I want you to do is now look at quotation based questions. And next we are going to meet, most probably we are going to meet on Wednesday, or we are going to meet on Thursday, because I'm giving you 3-4 days. During these 3-4 days, even if you're writing 2 or 3 questions per day, suppose you're writing 2 questions, statement based questions, for the next 3-4 days, you will cover 2 or 3 papers. Okay, that is 2025, 2024, 2023. You will be able to cover them. So when we meet, most probably on the next Wednesday or Thursday, when we meet them, by that time you will be capable of pointing out any problems that you are facing related to answer writing. ठीक है, ये आपको समझ. So does morality depend upon majority opinion, or are the universal moral principle that remain valid when the society disagrees? See, first of all, morality is an individualistic idea. It's what I believe in. So it is not based on majority opinion. Okay, it is definitely influenced by majority opinion, but to say that we base our morality on majority opinion, that is not necessarily the case. Okay, so that's it for today. We'll meet in the next session. The next session most probably on Wednesday or on Thursday. You will be informed much earlier. Come prepared for the session. Okay, thank you.